Hey everybody, welcome back to In Bed with the Millennial. I'm the Millennial, Javeda Bay, and this is my bed, and it is our last Monday of January, which means it's our last episode on communication. And today I want to talk about communicating with different people about sex because, y'all, we should be talking about it more, obviously. But it looks different depending on who you're talking to. So let's get into that. All right, Jave. So, who should I be talking to about sex? Well, one, obviously, your partners. You should definitely be talking to your partners about sex, but also like friends. We need to normalize talking to people about sex, and friends are those people. Because also, like, what are you doing if you're not having like a nice little like brunch session where y'all are like, yo, I tried this new position, and honestly, I think I'm an acrobat now, but like, it was amazing. Like, you know, you should talk about it with your friends. If you're a parent, you should definitely be talking about it with your children, because would you rather them hear accurate stuff from you or whatever they hear on the playground or from their friends at school, which more than likely is not accurate sex ed? You know? And then lastly, family. And this is like in the broad context of like if you are the older cousin and the cousins come to you, you should be talking to them about sex, because if they don't feel comfortable going directly to their parents, your aunts or uncles or whoever, they need someone to turn to. And honestly, it's much better for them to come to somebody that they actually already know and trust than to go out into the world and let anybody tell them any old thing, you know? Okay, Gervais, so that's the who. Why should I even be having these conversations with them? Well, one, you should be talking to your partners, because if you're not, how are y'all having actual good sex? How are you doing that goal of 2023 of having an amazing sex life if you were not talking about your sex life with your partners? So that's the why with partners, because you want to have good sex, and that's the only way to have good sex is to talk about it. When it comes to talking to friends, the why is really because we need to normalize talking about sex, as I said. But like, how are we going to like better understand, like try new things, like open our mind to different types of sex if we're not talking about sex with other people? If you and the same person are the only people having sex with each other and y'all's creativity is maxed out and there's no imagination, sex can get a little boring, can get a little stale. But if you talk about it with your friends, y'all go to brunch once a month and y'all are like, okay, what's been happening? You are getting new ideas, and hearing all this stuff that you probably would not have. Also from like people that you trust, and also like friends are good for like really like getting you on track with stuff. So like you're talking to your friends about sex, they're like, yo, what you mean you out here dating XYZ, but you haven't like gotten tested since like blah blah blah? Like friends are gonna encourage you to do the right thing. Also, friends really see a lot of stuff, so they will let you know if that whack person that you're sleeping with is somebody you need to drop from the roster. So talk about sex, because we only have a limited scope of view in terms of looking at ourselves and our lives, and friends offer us a good like knock back to reality, you know? Why should you talk about sex with children? I think it's pretty obvious, but sex ed is not taught in our education systems pretty much. So, and like at least not like comprehensive, inclusive, medically accurate sex ed. So it's important that we have these conversations so that way people are not just children and youth are not just turning to porn as their form of sex education, because porn is not sex education. It's for entertainment. It could be used in a sex education manner if people have porn literacy skills, but also that's not taught. So, you know, having the conversations with children is extremely important. Also, because there's power in knowledge. Having the knowledge to make your own decisions confidently is extremely important. But how can you make good decisions if you don't understand everything? Like, I felt so much better when I did start engaging in sexual activity, because my mom got me hip to a lot of things, and other adults in my life. So having these conversations makes a world of difference. Also, a lot of like the pushback on like talking to children about sex is that it's like, oh, if you start talking about sex, then they'll want to go have sex. And actually, studies have shown that like talking to children about sex does not encourage them to go have sex. A lot of them wait for a longer amount of time to actually become sexually active. So, you know, also like, it's just like, why are we gatekeeping information about people's bodies and relationships with others and things of that nature, you know? So we should be talking to children about sex. And lastly, talking with family. And I said this earlier, but like, not everyone in families has like can go directly to their parents for whatever reason, or other folks, parents and guardians in their life, for sex ed information. So being that person in the family is really beneficial. I was that person in my family before all of my cousins like actually became like grown-ups and now they do their own thing. But like, every time I came home from college or when I was visiting back from LA after I graduated from college, I had condoms. I was like, here's some lube, here you go. I just want you to be hooked up. Like, don't worry, I got you always and forever. So it's really important to have somebody that you can turn to, especially because most sex shops are actually 18 plus. So in the sense of like actually being able to access different things, having somebody in your family that you can go to is extremely important for younger family members, because they can't access stuff on their own, because our society is weird and thinks that youth can't make their own decisions or shouldn't have access to like sexually related things. And I'm like, but they're sexually active, so why can't they go into a sex shop and like purchase condoms and stuff? Luckily that is changing. There are some sex shops out there that like have like specific like hours and days that are for underage people to come in and like look at sex toys, get like safer sex materials. It's amazing. But yeah, so we need to talk about it with all these people. And lastly, where should the conversation start with these different groups about talking about sex? The first place is going to be consent. Because like, one, with your friends, you don't just like pop off and just be like, okay, so last night it was like 3 people. We all just like started going to town. There was fists going everywhere. And that, did they say that they wanted to hear the details yet? Like, so consent is the first place to start, especially when talking with friends. And then with partners, like obviously consent's important, because like y'all need to have that conversation before you start engaging with each other. So consent is like a big spot of where you want to start. But for like children and family, it's gonna start with like age appropriateness, in the sense of like you being like the older person and them being younger. Because yes, obviously I'm not gonna say like go out here and teach like 5-year-olds sex ed of like how to have an orgasm. No, but like teaching age appropriateness, like, okay, here are all the parts of the body, so that way you understand your bodies in general. And then also teaching them like, hey, this is why you don't do XYZ things. Like, you don't let people touch you here. So age appropriateness is extremely important when starting these conversations. And I feel like, okay, but I don't know where to start. I got recommendations. Obviously, Dr. Lex, who I talk about so much, amazing resource. Sex Positive Families is another option. So yeah, just like go to learn more from sex positive sex educators and things of that nature, and they can give you so much guidance on where to start when talking to your children based off of their age. And that goes with family members as well. But yeah, make sure that like these conversations are happening, because we need to talk about sex. It's the only way that we're going to normalize sex and also help to spread all of the education that is out there possible, dispel myths and all those things, everything I talked about in last week's episode. Yeah. So start talking about sex, please. I beg you. But yeah, that has been this month. We talked all about communication, and I hope that you are walking away with something and some better communication skills. And you're like, yo, Javay, my little sex life is already improved from you, girl. Thank you. You're welcome. But also make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, because it's only January. We got a whole year ahead of us, and I got content for you. So subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on all the social media platforms, because as per usual, different content on all of them, so you don't want to miss it. And make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter, because those are the folks that find out the good stuff first and definitely want to be in that know. So get in that know. And yeah, until next time, I'm gonna see you later. Deuces.